Welcome back, folks. So I'm going to start this ZL130 farm truck build. It's the King Kong RC, and if you're going to build this, I suggest patience. I've just kind of started opening up and separating things, but the amount of hardware is crazy, and as you can see by the instructions, there's a lot of different sizes, a lot of different little baggies. This is definitely going to be a test of patience. But it looks like I need to start off with the frame rail, so I got that out. I'm going to start gathering up the rest of these pieces and see what kind of progress we can make. So I have begun the first couple of steps, and so far I've been able to find all the hardware where it should be. So I've done step 1, step 2, and step 3. I can tell you that it is going to take some time. See, there we're in focus. As you can see, there is a different screw head size for almost every single little thing. And then we run into these guys. They're what's holding the bumper on. I don't have a socket that small. And I was wondering why they suggested you had needle nose pliers to do this kit. And now I know why, because you have to grab them by the tip and rotate them. And it is a wrist workout. Because you have 2 on the top there, 2 on the bottom, and by the look of this bag that is nothing but those screws, I'm thinking that maybe they should have included a little socket for those. I mean, maybe they did and I just haven't found it yet. But so far everything's going good, other than it is tedious and time consuming trying to match up all the different bolt sizes. But so far everything has been included, all the bolt holes have lined up, that everything's bolted together smoothly. And I'm going to pick up here. Well, for me it'll be in the morning, but for you it'll be in the next clip. Starting to get a little dark out outside, and I will see you on that step. We are back at it, and it just so happens it started raining, but you know, metal roof makes a good noise. So I have gone through the next couple of steps, and I'm just gonna update you along this process and let you know where any mistakes are. The first one I encountered is right here. You have to put in, this is step number 6, you have to put in this little M3 grub screw into the plastic and then put this tube into that. That is a very shallow well, and it goes out very easily and strips out. So what I did instead is I drilled clean through and put an M3 in from this side. So that took care of that problem. That's very secure now. The next issue I ran into is when we got to this cross member, and this would be step number 8. It tells you to use these M26s. When you get them down all the way, the heads will still stick up probably almost 2 millimeters, maybe 3 millimeters, way too high, so it can't actually tighten down that beam support in there. You can go about it 2 ways. You can either add washers, or what I did is I locked them down, these guys, locked them down in the vise, and just cut a little bit off of each end of them with a Dremel tool. Other than that, so far everything is lining up. Patience. This is not a kit for somebody who's inexperienced, for sure. They do a decent job of displaying. So far everything has been accurate as far as the hardware goes. It's the hardware, you can find it, but I suggest, you can see all this, I suggest laying all your hardware out where you can easily read the labels, because there is just so much to do, and it can really get daunting just trying to go through and find all of your pieces. But the instructions are actually pretty decent. They are a 1-to-1 representation, so you can line up your parts there to make sure you have the right parts, and so far that's been working okay. It's just some of the stuff just isn't quite right. Like I said, some of the screws they recommend is too long, and you know, some of the things are just a little on the weak side, so that's how I improve that. I'm gonna keep moving on. I am on step 9 now, and I've just started attaching this piece here, and I'm moving my way backwards, so I'm just about to the next page. Alright, I finished up step 8 and flipped the page, and step 9. Now we're on step 10. And this is going to be sticking another cross member in. And I will keep you updated and let you know if I have to end up cutting these ones off as well. I'm probably going to have to. And we'll keep moving from there. But so far, everything is going together just like the instructions. And then we're going to have to start repeating the same thing on the other side to finish building the other frame rail. Everything looks like it's working pretty good, though. I mean, all the pieces seem to move freely in the sockets where they're supposed to. And I think it's going to be an alright kit. It's going to take, just a little bit of patience. Well, moving forward, I got the other rail sides put together. I got the neighbors jamming over there. Hopefully it doesn't pick up on the camera too much, because YouTube will copyright strike me again for that stuff. It wouldn't be the first time they've picked up background music and hit me with it. So the next step after you get your other frame side on, which is identical to the other side with the exception of this tank. But I went ahead and did a pre-weathering job on it to get it ready to go. That way when I strap it in place, it'll be, which is going to be on the other side over here, it should already at least be the main paint done on it, because I didn't want to have to take it off and do it again. But it's kind of a neat setup. You got these straps that go around it. Looks like M3s on the back. And then these two pieces just go into the frame rail side. And so far, there hasn't been any more issues at all with this thing. Everything's been bolting together, so as long as you follow your instructions, and it said they got 1-to-1, they're actually not too bad. And our other issue was, what do we do with these crazy little, like, 1.5 millimeter bolt heads? So I took, this is out of like a IC5 connector, and I took one of the male ends out of that and put this heat shrink around it, and that seems to hold it pretty daggone good. You can go right on there and it pops down into place, and for moving them it doesn't do too bad, and the more you squeeze on it the better it holds. And the other option, well, I just took a cap head screw and that fits on there super nice. So I think that's what I'm going to run them in on from now on. Should have thought of that earlier, but we got there. So I'm going to finish bolting this together. I just have the frame rails laid together at the moment. I do not have any of the bolts in on the opposite side. And I'm going to put our tank on there, and that should take us all the way to the steering rack. Little builder's tip. When you get to this section here and you go to bolt down through the rails, do not over tighten your bolts. This will happen. I snap that one off there. I think it's going to hold just fine though. And then just in general, be careful. There's another socket head that I snapped off on the bottom here, and that's that one I told you where they didn't give you the right length. The next one I used, I just didn't have cut down quite far enough when I was trying to crank it down. It broke, but I think also it's holding just fine. And we've gotten to this little back bumper area, and it calls for you to put in these 2 4s, and those are more of those little socket head, and it is a little bit of a pain trying to get your fingers down in there and spin those little tiny socket heads, so just be mindful of that. Luckily, when we get to step 23, it shows this assembly, but it was already assembled for us in the box. So moving forward, bolting that on, that's a step that was already done, so that's nice. If it wasn't for just the numerous sizes of hardware and the quality of the hardware, this kit would be great. That's really so far my only big complaint is just the hardware, and I think that's most people's complaint on these kits that I've watched. Quick insert, so a completely bonehead move on my part. I just automatically assumed that the steering link would be facing forward, so I mounted it that way, and it's supposed to be backwards. So I have that flipped now, so I'll put this insert in here, so hopefully you don't do the same thing I did. And yeah, that should have us back to normal. Well, the next thing I did was a steering rack, which they had assembled for us. And it all went together really nice and easy. Don't forget these little tab pieces. They sit right there in the front. And when you get to the rear axle, this shows 1 hole. There's actually 2 holes side by side. Go to the outermost hole or else it will not fit when it comes time to bolt it in over here. I'll go to the outermost for those. It's looking pretty good. It looks like it has decent suspension flex on the front for being, big heavy leaf springs. Of course, the back doesn't hardly move at all. It's it's pretty solid. I think this is where we're going to wrap up the first section. We'll stop here, and then we'll pick back up at the motor when we come back for part 2. Thanks for watching. I hope any mistakes I made help you in the future, or any little tips I was able to provide. I'll catch you on the next video.